California has a ton of serious problems, notably homelessness, which may be the cause of many other smaller problems. In this story, we learn about a California salon owner claiming the homelessness crisis is forcing her to relocate after 15 years because she has grown sick of cleaning up syringes, urine, and feces from outside her premises every day. Now, she is not in Los Angeles or San Francisco. She's in Sacramento. And she posted photos, so we'll go through this, and we'll talk a bit about, the issue here. But here's the thing. A lot of people talk about California and say the problem with feces everywhere. I'm sorry if this is a gross conversation, but, California's got serious issues. I used to live in LA. In fact, I was in LA not that long ago, and I watched a homeless person get out of this really, really tiny, crappy tent and do their business just right there in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. 1 and 2. And that problem that's highlighted about the human waste comes from homelessness, but the homelessness that we see in LA isn't entirely, or I should say, there is a correlation here between that and mass shootings. Hear me out. It's a mental health problem. It is. So I don't like it when people say like, oh, this event happened, we have a mental health crisis. It's like, yeah, I get it. Look, there are things we can talk about because perhaps solving the problem of feces, we put a porta potty somewhere, right? It doesn't solve the homelessness problem, but it at least alleviates one aspect. Or perhaps the smart decision is to figure out what's causing the mental illness and figure out how we can actually accommodate these people better. There's the problem. You help the homeless people, you solve a ton of problems. No more drugs, syringes, all that stuff. But how do you do it? Honestly, I don't know. But I like to look down to the root and figure out where this is all coming from. I will add this too. California has a lot of very liberal policy. And I'll tell you this, man, look, when I was younger, I moved to Seattle. And when I went there, broke, with only like a handful of change, I was told by some, lefty squatter types that, I can't remember how old I was, but they were like, just go to the Department of Human Services and they'll give you an EBT card, like a food card or whatever. And I was like, nah, man, I can't do that. Like, that's not me. Like, I didn't grow up like that. I don't like taking food cards. And they were like, nah, you can't be like without food. This is what it's for. So I went there, talked to them, and I said, I don't think like it's for me. It doesn't make sense. I'm like young. I can get a job somewhere. I just moved here. And they were like, no. Like, it's not about you being homeless or starving. It's about you moved here. You need a job. You're a young person here. Here's a card. It's like $80 a month and you'll have food. And I was like, oh, cool. Here's the thing. I knew a lot of people who did not work and they would do these things. They would go to a different food bank every day and get food. Every day there was a different food bank in a different part of Seattle and they would stock up. They would also go into stores, fill up shopping carts, and walk out the front door. Like, seriously, just steal it all. And so what I found is if they can, they will. Now, look. There's what we need to address when talking about the problem. Okay, I got to read this story. We're 3 minutes in, and I'm derailing here. I'll end this one point and say the reason I brought it up is because when you create the possibility, you create the existence, right? If you build it, they will come. You provide a bunch of resources to those who truly need it. Don't be surprised when people come to California to exploit it. So let's read the story. They say a hair salon owner in California says she will be forced to move her business due to the problems of homeless people sleeping outside her shop. Elizabeth Novak, who owns a hair salon in downtown Sacramento, posted a video on Twitter on Friday describing how she often finds people camping in tents across her front door. She told how the vagrancy crisis gripping the state is affecting long-standing business owners and that her shop has been broken into and she has even been attacked. Novak, who has run her salon for 15 years, said in her social media message that she often has to clean up urine, feces, and needles left by rough sleepers on her doorstep, and she posted photos. Look at this. Someone kicked her door in, broke into the salon, trashed the place. And there's trash all over the ground. She said, addressing her concerns directly to Governor Gavin Newsom, she said in a heartfelt pleas for action, I want to know what are you going to do for us Californians? I've had a business in downtown Sacramento for 15 years, a successful business. I now have to leave my place of business. I have to close my shop. I just want to tell you what happens when I get to work. I have to clean up the poop and the pee off my doorstep. I have to clean up the syringes. I have to politely ask the people who I care for these people that are homeless, to move their tents out of the way of the door to my business. I have to fight off people who push their way into my shop who are homeless and on drugs because you won't arrest them for drug offenses. I have to apologize to my clients as to why they can't get into my door because there's someone asleep there and they're not getting the help they need. You know, California has like a Democratic majority. Los Angeles has a Democratic supermajority. And I read this story in the New York Times. Even with a Democratic supermajority, they could not solve the problem. They couldn't pass a bill to alleviate the homelessness. You know what? I don't know if there's a one solution to end homelessness because the causes of homelessness are there's multifaceted. There's many different things that you know, there are some people who are sane hard workers who lose their job and go broke. And there are some people who refuse to work and are lazy, but there are a lot of people who are just mentally ill and can't hold work. And that's the most of what I've seen. And I've worked in a nonprofit area for with homeless people. California attracts the homeless for an obvious reason. The weather is really nice. Now, here's the thing. New York does have more, as my understanding, New York has more homeless people statewide. And Chicago has a serious amount of homeless people. Los Angeles doesn't have I think Los Angeles as a city might have more than any other city. I could be wrong. But a lot of people go to LA specifically because super nice weather. Not only does it attract, you know, homeless people who are just incapable of working, it attracts ideological homeless people. Now, there are people who want to live on the beach and they do it for ideological reasons. And, you know, I can understand that because it's a far cry from the homeless dude with dreadlocks who wants to play volleyball on the beach and, you know, be homeless. These are people who are not causing these kinds of problems. The problems we're seeing here is a mental health crisis. And so the reason I wanted to bring this up is when I see these mass tragedies, I wonder why no one is taking mental health seriously enough. The debate never talks about the homeless crisis. The national story is never California is undergoing a massive homelessness crisis, which is resulting in massive problems. And this woman has to shut her business down because of the problems in front of her store because someone kicked her door in. Let me give a little bit of pushback real quick, though. You know, demographics change. It may be that 15 years ago, she was in a better area than she is now. I kind of like I'm offering the possibility. I'm not saying it's true. You know, you could live in one area that's really nice and it starts falling apart, disrepair, you know, no revenue. The city doesn't care about it. But she did say she's in downtown Sacramento. So you'd imagine the city would do what it could to solve this problem downtown in their city. But I'll tell you what, in Los Angeles, downtown LA is fairly neglected relative. I shouldn't say that, but I'll tell you this. When I go to LA, the people I know, from skateboarders to celebrities and musicians, they don't go anywhere near downtown LA. They just avoid it. They go to Santa Monica, Venice. They go to, you know, the Palisades and places like that. They want to be by the water. They don't want to go anywhere near the downtown area. So you end up with a downtown area that's pretty bad. Now, I don't know what Sacramento's like, but I can tell you this. Whatever is going on, this is just another story in a list of stories about an ever-increasing problem that California isn't dealing with. So look, this woman slammed Democratic governor's liberal ideology as not working and criticized him for sitting in his $1 million home and not having to look at what we have to look at. She added in the video, I talked to the police officers. They told me to contact you. They want to do something and they can't. You changed the laws. So I want you to know I want to know what you're going to do for us, the ones that are unhappy. You want to make us a sanctuary state? You want to make it comfortable for everybody except for the people that work hard and have tried their hardest to get along in life. And now we have to change that because of your laws. Here's the way I see it. With good reason, there are Democrats who say we need this social policy. Corruption starts. Problems erupt. And instead of solving those problems, they just address the emotional, but we're helping. You know, listen, they say teach a man to fish. Feed a man to fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for, you know the saying. You get what I'm trying to say. If we just give everything away, you create people who lack resilience and can't survive on their own, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. My political view on these policy issues is that we need a nuanced, balanced view of how to lift these people up and set them on a path towards self-reliance. I don't think stripping the programs is the answer, but I do think, the way I've described it before, and I guess I'll just wrap up on this idea. We had a problem, we had a growing problem in our society. And so we decided we should create some kind of benefit to make sure people who, through no fault of their own, end up homeless or in dire need can be protected. We put a bandage over that wound. And then we walked away. And the wound started to fester. The bandage started to grow mold. And you know what we said? Ooh, that looks gross. Let's put a bandage over it. And so now there's a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid. At a certain point, you put someone in a program, you offer them something they need, you tear it off, you clean it, and you send them on their way. So I know there are a lot of programs that actually do this, and I agree to a certain extent. I don't want to act like the simple solution is always the correct one, right? And what I mean by that is, it might make sense to say, oh, someone lost their job, give them benefits till they get on their feet. Well, some people might just choose to stay on the benefits. It's easier. Well, they don't last forever, you say. Okay, but then they're just back out on the street. It didn't solve the problem, just giving them the resource. There are some places that have mandatory work programs. You can get benefits, but you have to take a class on how to get a job. Some people are then going to say the class is easier than the job. Why get a job? Time limits, maybe. But perhaps the solution to the homelessness problem starts with mental health, and to reforming our social safety net system. The answer maybe isn't to give people a guaranteed resource, but to, maybe, I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you this. When you give people the option, they take it. And some people will exploit it. We don't want to throw everything away because people really do get helped by this system. I've been helped by it. I agree with it. I've been there. I've lost a job and I've received unemployment benefits when I was a decade ago, and it saved me from being, I've been homeless at any rate, but at least in this instance, it allowed me to continue, and I found another job eventually. I made things work, and then things started to improve. So I recognize the system being fantastic, but how do we protect it from corruption? Does the system work as it does today? Well, I'll point to what's going on in California and say, not pointing to any individual policy, but something isn't working. Maybe we need to walk backwards and then walk forward, or maybe it's a left turn or a right turn. What I'm trying to say is the solution might not be just add more programs. The solution might be maybe the programs we have in place aren't working and we should get rid of them and replace them. I believe we can have government programs to solve these problems. Absolutely. I don't think there's going to be a market incentive necessarily for humanely dealing with those who are in trouble. It's possible the nonprofit sector could take care of it, and they do, but I think it really just requires a sit-down strategy meeting to look for the root of the problem, do the research, and then make some changes. Because I'll tell you this right now, whatever their policies are, I'm not going to go as far as she did and say it's their liberal ideology. I think to a certain extent, it's fine. I hold similar views, but I will recognize the problem. And I will absolutely, I hear this woman and I say, you're right. This needs to be solved. Personally, I think there is a solution that lies within a more left-leaning policy, but I recognize this wasn't it. So let's sit down and figure it out. Apparently they don't want to do it because, like I mentioned, even with a supermajority in Los Angeles, they can't get it done. So I don't know what to tell you. Rich people will go off to the Palisades and Santa Monica and they won't see these things and they'll say, I don't care. Now, granted, the Democrats who are in the city have to live in the city, I'm assuming. But the point is, they'll sit atop their ivory towers and say, doesn't bother me. I'll ignore it. I'll have my car pick me up in the garage downstairs and I'll never have to deal with a homeless person. Well, the problem exists and something has to be done. And whatever it is you've done in the past didn't work. So how about we figure it out, right? Before we actually start seeing bubonic plague return, which is a legitimate fear. Anyway, stick around. Next video will be coming up at 4 p.m. on youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel. I will see you then.